Can I thank everybody who contributed to the contribution today in terms of petrol and diesel prices. This isn't the first time that we've brought a motion like this before the Dáil. Indeed, we brought a motion before the Dáil last September. It would be remiss of me, Cahill, not to address some of the hot air that we were getting from the rural independents. I'm glad that they've now left because things have cooled down a wee bit. But let me just say this here. For the record, this government here introduced carbon tax over every year on petrol and diesel for the next 10 years, or since it was introduced in 2020. It was in the Finance Bill of 2020. The one thing I would say to Richard O'Donoghue, Deputy Richard O'Donoghue, is he wasn't even here. He didn't vote against it, neither did he vote for it. He wasn't even here when it was passed. He didn't turn up. What I would say to Michael Healy-Rae and all the guff that he had today, he also didn't turn up. But that isn't unique, because the last time that we brought a motion here in terms of this government pushing up prices in petrol and diesel was in September. You know who else didn't turn up for that to contribute to the debate? Michael Healy-Rae, Richard O'Donoghue, indeed none of the rural independents turned up when their slot was called. And that shows just how important that they feel on this issue. A lot of huffing, a lot of puffing, but the reality is we have been consistent in putting this issue on the political agenda, because Sinn Féin is genuine when we talk about that we need change and people are under pressure. If you want an example of how out of touch Fine Gael are after 13 years of government, just listen to what the Minister across the floor said, because you do not understand where ordinary people are at. I mentioned earlier on the survey that Sinn Féin have carried out. One person said, and he said, I have disability. I'm on disability allowance. I rely completely on my car. He's a lone parent. He has 3 sons. He says these schools aren't on the bus route, so it means school runs are a must by car. He says it's very frustrating and causes me anxiety most days trying to juggle the huge cost of living increases. It's been like in a vice with no way out, and the vice is getting tighter and tighter each week. And whose hand is on that vice? It is the government's hand. It is the government that is tightening that vice on ordinary people the length and breadth of this state in the middle of a cost of living crisis. Not once are they putting up the cost of petrol and diesel as they did at the start of this month, but they plan to do it a second time. But not happy with the second increase, they plan to do it for the 3rd time in October, and we are saying very clearly that that should not happen if you understood where ordinary people were at. Never have we collected as much taxes on petrol and diesel in the history of the state than we are doing now. When this government came into office, we were collecting €236 million less on petrol and diesel than we are last year. And you know what's going to happen this year? Because the prices have gone up, we're going to collect more than that again. Excise duty under this government's plan, we will not have collected more excise duty ever than we have under this government's plan. The excise duties that we have currently, Minister, even before you plan more increases as you do, are actually higher than they were 3 years ago. So this is a government-imposed penalty on people, on ordinary people and workers that are looking for government and saying, we want you to have our back. Well, unfortunately, anybody looking in here knows that Fine Gael do not have the back of ordinary people, that Fianna Fáil do not have the back of ordinary people, and if you listen to the independents, they spent more time giving out about us, who wants to stop these hikes, than giving out about the government who's pushing them up. Why? Because we know the reality is independents rush to Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil's support time and time again, and that's the reality. So this can be stopped, this should be stopped, and if it isn't stopped, you will crucify border towns, border businesses, family businesses, hundreds of them, that are now facing right across the bridge or right across the road, petrol being sold for less than 20 cents. And not one minister, and I've challenged the ministers, I've challenged the Taoiseach, I've said, what do you say to that family business who's already dealing with price pressures in terms of minimum wage, auto-enrolment, PRSRI increases? What do you say to them when they're looking at the forecourt that they can see that the petrol is 20 cents cheaper and you put 10 cents of that price on their pump? What do you say to those jobs? What do you say to the businessman who has to turn around and say, I have to let you go because we cannot survive in this environment? And it is the government, it is the Minister for Finance who has decided to put it to a point where we can no longer survive. And the government is silent on this issue. So I appeal to everybody who has the back of ordinary people across the state, back Sinn Féin's motion, back the people, stop these hikes.
Thanks, Deputy.